cr101radio.com, podcasts, and more.
24. Shortcuts. March the 13th, 1956. Good morning, friends. Some years ago, a woman remarked to me that she had wasted much of her life looking for shortcuts to everything. She had looked for shortcuts to God, to happiness, to her heart's desires, to all things, and only ended up much further away from her objectives. Her experience is a commonplace one. People constantly look for shortcuts, and a good way to start a new religious group, cult, or sect is to offer a new shortcut to God. Now, all these shortcuts have one common characteristic. They propose to bypass and eliminate from your life all unhappy problems, all unpleasant subjects, all trying experiences, and deliver you, sweet and untroubled, to God Himself. But the unhappy fallacy in all such thinking is this: no man who tries to be delivered from life can be delivered to God. Only as we meet all of life's experiences can we be prepared to meet the God who gives them. Sin and suffering, tragedy and death, these are not things which religious faith should help us to avoid, but rather help us to meet. To meet God, therefore, we must meet all of life victoriously, and this we cannot do apart from Jesus Christ. There is no way to God which can eliminate Him without disaster to itself. Jesus said, "I am the way," John 14:6, the only road to God. More, He said, "I am the door," John 10:9, the only entrance to God. "For no man cometh to the Father but by me," John 14:6. No shortcut to God leads anywhere but to ruin when it eliminates the whole of life experienced in and with Jesus Christ, the mediator between God and man. In Him and His atoning mediation, we can meet all of life without running away, because all is transformed. All is under the divine providence. Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain. Isaiah 44. What about shortcuts to happiness? Here again, we too often want one side of life only, and insist on our right to reject the other. But our capacity for happiness is always in proportion to our capacity to receive all of life from the hand of God. The most truly happy people are those who can accept both sorrow and happiness, and in everything give thanks to God. It is our temptation too often to be content merely with praying for blessings and for happiness. We have so much to ask God for, and we ask it often and impatiently, wondering at His delay and His failure to answer. God declared long ago, "I set before you a blessing, if ye obey." Deuteronomy 11:26 and 27. The condition of blessing, therefore, is an obedient heart, a heart that seeks God's will and increasingly delights in it. There is no shortcut to happiness which can eliminate faith and obedience. It is thus obvious that shortcuts are by no means the way to life. The richness of life is in living all of it under God. The result of such living is made clear by the psalmist when he declares that such a man shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Psalm 1:3. There is no promise of immunity from storm, of protection from unhappiness, grief, or sorrow. Nowhere does God promise us such a life in this world. This assurance, however, is clear-cut, that when our lives are rooted in God through Jesus Christ, whatsoever we do shall prosper in terms of God's eternal purpose and our eternal joy. The sacrament of the Lord's table witnesses to this wholeness of life. The end of the sacrament is the sanctification of the saints, the growth in the Lord, the blessing of the whole of their lives with the strength, joy, or peace of the Lord. And yet, the way to that blessed result is the acceptance of Christ's atoning sacrifice, our own dying to the old Adam in us, our willingness to become living sacrifices in Christ Jesus, and our obedience to the Lord. Our Redeemer stated it very simply when He said, Whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. Luke 9:24.